Yo, today we're going to be looking at my biggest surprise of Monster Hunter Wilds, and that is Sword and Shield. This has easily become my favorite weapon in the game right now. Normally, I am a gunner, but that's mainly because I play keyboard and mouse, and in previous games it was a lot harder to do melee, but now with focus mode, it's a lot easier for me to do melee, so I've been kind of branching out and trying different weapons. And right now, Sword and Shield has easily become my favorite weapon in this game. It has just literally everything from all the different weapons. It has damage, it has mobility, it has defenses, it has seriously everything, and it fits so well. It's so fluid into just one package. I think it's fantastic right now. You can launch yourself into the air, so if you need to get like easy mounts, things like that, you can basically take aspects of like insect glaive, you can take aspects of like longsword, lance. There's basically all different parts of the weapon arsenals put into just one package. It's seriously fantastic. Its damage is really good. I'm no speedrunner by any means, and I'm still completing tempered arc velds in like 7 minutes or less, depending on how well I do. And if you guys are really good at speedrunning, you're gonna be beating it in like 4 minutes, less than 4 minutes. I know people are beating it with Sword and Shield right now. So there's a lot of like upscaling to be had with how well you can do with this weapon. So give it some practice and you guys will be good to go. But for the most part, it is very easy to use. You can stay right on the monster the whole time with all of your guarding and just continually dish out damage, which is the reason I like it. I hate dodging around and waiting for opportunities to attack. I can just continue attacking with this weapon, and that's why I like it so much. Not to mention you can get a ton of stuns, KOs, and things like that as well, while dishing out damage with your slashes. So we're going to be looking at all of the combos that you should be doing with this weapon. We're going to be looking at the entire campaign progression from low rank to high rank to endgame. The endgame stuff, I'm like HR 100 and something. So I have basically everything I need. There are a couple like gems that I could get, decorations that I could change around for better min-maxing. But for the most part, it's not going to make a huge difference, at least until they fix critical element for the time being. So right now it doesn't matter too much, but in the end I will mention exactly what you should be looking for if you're trying to like truly min-max this. So let's go ahead and take a look at all of these different aspects of Sword and Shield. So I think where we should start things off with Sword and Shield is looking at our combos. Now, the way that you used to play this is with Perfect Rush. So you'd basically like dash backwards. If I was in focus mode, I would dash backwards here. And then you charge forward, do a flurry of attack, launch yourself into the air, and then you could like shield bash or pull your sword through them. There's a couple different options depending on what scenario you're in, but usually you do the falling bash. It does a good amount of damage, but it's not anything too crazy. If I didn't hit it beforehand, it should be around like 700 to 800 damage here. But if we take a look at the actual combos that we should be doing, and that's our lateral slashes. So if you are attacking, you just got to be making sure you're still, if you're holding W, you are going to be doing like shield bashes, which is something that you do want to avoid. That's not really worth using. Right now, you just want to be doing lateral slashes. So once you're still, you're going to be using this in openings just because there's usually a high commitment, at least with the finisher of this combo. So you're going to be doing 3 lateral slashes into Spinning Reaper and Charge Chop. With that combo, you're going to be doing quite a bit of damage there. But that Charge Chop is, like I said, a high commitment move. So you're going to be using that when you have the monster down and you know you have an open window. So taking a look at its actual damage here, just with that combo itself, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and Charge Chop here. Pull it through. We're going to do a hair over 1,000 damage. I have no buffs active right now, just burst activating, because that's on my current weapon set. But right here, over 1,000 damage, works out incredibly well. Now that's going to be, like I said, your main damage source, unless you need to do like a Perfect Rush. If you need to mount the monster, try to get like a KO or something with Falling Bash is going to be where you use that. Otherwise, the thing that you're going to be using is actually just your chops. Now, you're going to be using those when you have the Corrupted Mantle equipped. So if we take a peek at this, equip the Corrupted Mantle. As you're going to see, every single chop we do is going to give us that extra hit that the mantle can provide. On other attacks, it is just a chance for whatever reason. On the chops, it is guaranteed. So when you have the mantle on, this is going to be the main way you're going to want to be dealing damage. Not to mention, you can be incredibly mobile while you do it. You're moving around the monster. You can avoid attacks, and it's going to be your highest damage output that you can achieve right now when this mantle is active. You can still do like your lateral slashes and perfect rushes when you need to with it equipped, but if you're just trying to get to the monster to be staggered and knock them down, this is gonna be how you do so. Just be doing this, all their different weak points, and you're gonna knock them down very, very quickly. The other really cool thing about Sword and Shield is your focus strike. This basically cuts out the start of perfect rush. So if you need to do a shield bash or try to like mount the monster, this is a really good way of doing so. So once you do get a wound on the target here, even when this the white scratches start appearing, you can actually hit your focus strike and cause the wounds right there, so you can get there a little bit quicker, at least in like a guaranteed way. But once it is glowing and you do your focus strike on it, you can either do a falling slash through it and just deal a lot of damage very quickly, or what you can do is launch yourself into the air and land on the target if you want to like mount them, or you can do the shield bash. So we're gonna go ahead and stab him. We hit, at least for me, my right click to launch us into the air, and we can do our falling bash there. Now, if you did notice, I waited a little bit for my falling bash. So a lot of times when you do that, it's going to make the monster recoil, and it's going to be a little bit harder to like hit them in the head with that. So what you can do is once you're in the air, you just wait a second, just wait, and then you can hit it, and it's going to bring you right back up and then down. That way you can make sure you're hitting them in the head and line it up properly. So just a little tidbit there, and it's really helped me out to make sure to be hitting the heads of the monsters. Another part of the Sword and Shields kit that I use all the time is our sliding swipe. So if you go into your guard mode, if you hit, for me, my left click, whatever your top attack is, I think it's Y on like an Xbox controller. Sorry, I don't play controller. But anyways, if you use that, you do this sliding attack that actually does quite a bit of damage and is super helpful for just getting around the monster. You can avoid so many attacks here, and I have heard you get an iframe at the end of it, I believe. So there's a lot of really cool things with it. It is incredibly helpful. If the monster knocks you back off of your guard, you can just use sliding swipe to get right back in there and dealing your damage with your chops or your lateral slashes. Any of those, it ends up working really well for just sticking close to the monster. That's the whole point of this weapon, is you're just stuck to him like glue. You never want to leave. That's how you deal your damage, and it works out incredibly well in a whole kit. Now, taking a look at our progression through the campaign and all the sets, let's take a look at low rank first. So you're just gonna have the hope set on when you very first start the game. From there, the first upgrade that you can do, this isn't necessary. You can go quite a while. I remember when I was doing like my gunning stuff in my first playthrough of the game, I just had the hope set on until I got later on with some more damaging options. But if you guys do need something out of the gate, my first suggestion would be the Chemitress sets here, so you could get flinch free. It's very helpful for just not letting small hits break up your combos and let you deal out more damage. The chip damage isn't really going to be all that crazy, and you can heal up if you need to. So that would be my first recommendation, is with that. Also, you can get the Lala Barina sword. That way you can get some paralysis going. That ends up working very well early on here. As you can see, 100, 10, 100 out of the Barina Dag 1. Very easy to get early on. But then from there, we can look at our second set. And that is going to be the Resentment set, and also another very big upgrade in terms of our weapons. So if we take a peek here, the weapon that we're going to be using is the Ajarkan weapon. This is going to be a blast weapon. It's going to move us up to blue sharpness as well. And then for the armor is going to be the Udra set. This way we can get some Resentment going. Resentment, you get it to proc very often with Sword and Shield when you're blocking, so that's very nice. It's a ton of free extra attack there. But then taking a peek as we move on is we're going to be getting into like our actual skills that we really want, and that's going to be burst, and that's going to be at the Guardian Ebony Odogaron. Over here is where you can start getting burst on your gear, and we're going to be going back to the Chemitress set. This way we can get some Elemental going. Elemental has been very strong for me, and the only thing that you have to worry about is obviously if they're immune to the elements or they don't take any at all, which is later on with like Arkveld. His chains won't take elemental damage, so things like blast end up being a little bit better in that one specific niche scenario. But for the most part, if you can match your element, don't even worry about matching, just make sure they're not immune to it and you'll be fine. So the Chemitress set or weapon is usually the one that I think is the best here. It's a 170 attack, 5 affinity, and 140 fire, and that will pair us with burst. And here we're going to be making basically the entire set. We're going to be making a 4-piece here with the helmet, chest, gloves, and waist, and then the Guardian Rathalos Greaves for just a little bit of weakness exploit. That's kind of our next best bet in terms of like our last piece, but that will give us 2 offensive guard. That's one of the reasons I really do like the Chemitress weapon, is because it comes with offensive guard. That's going to be a huge damage up at 10% when you block an attack. The Ajara Saber, this one is actually too high of a level because I was upgrading it for a future set we're going to be looking at here in a second. So this will also be 2 offensive guard. Don't think this is better. For the time being, they'll both be 2 offensive guard, but the Chemitress should be doing more damage for you. But we're going to be getting up to 3 burst and then the 1 weakness exploit, so you can be critting just a hair more as you are fighting the different weak spots. But that's going to basically take us through our low rank sets. This is going to last you quite a while into high rank. You can take this very, very far. Once we get to the Kangala in high rank is where we can actually max out our burst here. So we're going to be looking at basically the same weapon. We're still going to be using the Chemitress fire weapon here. And then we can actually get up to 5 bursts with the Guardian Ebony helmet, braces, and coil. And then using the Conga A chest and the Conga A greaves. Here, we're going to be looking at 3 offensive guard, 5 burst. We get some flinch free in here. If you guys, I have some gems slotted in here, which is why I have these. If you don't have them, you're going to be sitting at 2 offensive guard, but I can't remember exactly when you start getting gems, but just fill these in when you can. Match your fire with like a blaze jewel if you happen to get it. Offensive guard gem is very helpful, and then just something flinch free to keep you from getting knocked back and you continue your combos. But you can fill these in with whatever you get as you are getting them throughout the campaign. But moving on is basically going to be an optional. If you want to swap off of burst for agitator, you can go from the agitator 5 or sorry burst 5 to agitator 5 and still have some burst, which is really nice. In that case, you can swap over to the blast, but you can still use the elemental option with the Chemitress. Otherwise, the Ajarkan sword is going to be really good. This thing, the final upgrade, like the rarity 8, is very strong and something that Sword and Shield is very good with at endgame. So it is a good like long-term option there. So you can have offensive guard, agitator, and burst. This way, we're going to be looking at the Blongo mail, coil, and greaves with the Guardian Ebony helmet and braces. And then if you can get to the chain charm, you can throw that on and get an extra burst, which is very helpful. Then from there is going to take us basically to our final main quest line like upgrade. Like I said, the agitator set is just optional if you don't want to go from burst. This should last you plenty. It's just if you want to swap over to that and get off elemental stuff. But our final upgrade is going to be looking at the Guardian Ebony betas, Blongo Mail beta, Guardian Ebony beta, Blongo Coil beta, and Blongo Greaves beta. You can fill these in with like the Resentment gems, the Brace gems, and the Phoenix gems for Coalescence. This is going to be really good with our elemental weapon, which we can swap over to the Balahara, which is a water sword. This one is going to be rarity 7, so it's going to be a tier up from that Chemitress one and still give us offensive guard. And it's going to give us base 3 offensive guard, which is super helpful. It's extra 5% damage there. And you can fill it in with like a water gem and razor sharp. Keeping the white sharpness that you have is very helpful. White sharpness is a big upgrade from blue. So if you can keep that and you have razor sharp jewels as you're playing along, this is going to be a great option for you. But this whole set, you can end up looking at 3 offensive guard, 3 water attack, 3 razor sharp, 5 agitator, 4 burst, 3 coalescence, 3 flinch free, and 2 resentment, all from this at the end of the main quest line, which is really, really good, and it's going to serve you very well. And it's going to transition you very well into our endgame sets. So there's 2 endgame sets that I do recommend. That is, you can do like full status elemental here, or you can just do full like raw damage and also take advantage of elements. Like I said, elements are very strong. The only way you can't really take advantage of them are on Arkfeld's chain, or if the enemy happens to be immune to them. But if you just have 2 weapons of 2 different elements, you can swap them out for whatever enemy you're fighting. You don't even have to match to their like weaknesses. But let's take a look at that. So the endgame status is the one that I've been kind of playing around with. It's not the one that I always use. I mostly am using the endgame damage set. But the status set, you're going to want to be using your Artian weapons. With these, I highly recommend getting double sharpness boost on them. It's going to make it way more likely to stay into white sharpness throughout your entire hunt. If the monster moves, just make sure you sharpen up so you don't drop into blue. But for the most part, you will not be dropping into blue really at all unless you're hitting a lot of like hard points. From there, you can do element boost or affinity and attack boost. The only thing I would recommend is getting to 20% affinity. It's going to help you out quite a bit, just because we're not doing a ton of crit, but it is nice to get to that like 50% range once we have our agitator and things like that active, antivirus. All of that is going to be very helpful, so I do recommend getting your affinity up. But right now I'm sitting at 200 attack, 20 affinity, and 310 thunder here on this thunder variant. But the main thing that you want to be looking for is the double sharpness on your Artian weapons. Make it whatever element you want, and then I do recommend having, a blast weapon as your secondary. This can be very good for Arcveld. Also, if you just are too lazy to swap elements around and you like the blast procs and things like that, this is going to be very good with it. The blast really does help knock enemies down. So your gems on like all of these are going to be offensive guard. This is just like a must-have on all of your sword and shields. Free 15% damage just from one slot. Then you're going to want to match your elements. So if you have thunder, do a bolt. If you have blast, do a blast, things like that. Then you're going to want razor sharp. You can min-max this a bit by getting your element as like the secondary. You can get offensive guard with an element. You can get razor sharp with an element. And then eventually when critical element works again, you can get critical element and your element. So you could have 4 skills at rank 3 just from one weapon. So that would be like what you're going to run when critical element works again. At least works properly. So for the time being, this works perfectly fine, but that is something to look forward to in the future. But yeah, otherwise from there, we're going to be looking at the Gore helmet and Gore Greaves, so we can be taking advantage of antivirus and get to that affinity. From there, we can go 2-piece Ebony Odegaran with the braces A and the coil B. And then finally the Blanco Mail, so we can get a bit more agitator. Our gems on these are going to be the Challenger 3 in both of the tier 3 slots here, so that way we can get the up to 4 agitator, just one short unfortunately. Then we can max out Coalescence with our Phoenix gems, throw in the antivirus down here, and then I just threw in some brace jewels because we can max that out since the boots come with a brace slot. That way we can keep the like small hits from knocking us over and just continue damaging on. We don't have to worry about the chip damage with our Palico and things like that. Also, just want to explicitly mention the Chain Charm, and make sure you are using the Corrupted Mantle. Corrupted Mantle is going to help you deal just so much more damage. Just is going to be your best option for mantles and then your talisman here. Now, the final endgame set I want to show you is the one that I've been running the most, and it's been working out incredibly well for me. With this set, we're going to be maxing out Offensive Guard, our elements, Razor Sharp, and then we can max out Agitator, Burst, and Resentment, along with Flinch Free. But the main 3 damage ones, Burst, Agitator, and Resentment, ends up working incredibly well. Like I said, when you're blocking with the shield, you can get your Resentment to proc very often, and always have that like recoverable health, so you can get that attack bonus. I have found attack, just full sending attack, to be very strong in this game as opposed to crit. For whatever reason, I always used to be a crit fan, and I always do way less with it. I've tried crit options here, like I even have one set up like Endgame Crit here with some like weakness exploit, but it doesn't really feel that worth it, especially with the Corrupted Mantle giving you affinity and stuff. I feel like a weakness exploit doesn't really benefit us all that much, at least for when our mantle's up. And then crit boosts, and it just ends up not working as well in my opinion. If you guys want to try it, I do have this set up with Guardian Ebony Helmet, Gore Mail, Guardian Ebony Alpha Braces, Arc Vulcan Coil B, and Gore Greaves B with the Exploiter 2 Charm. that ends up working pretty well. But I do recommend staying on the status or just the full damage. But taking a look at the full damage, our weapons are going to be staying exactly the same. I haven't changed anything about that. Still our Artian weapons with offensive guard, elements, and razor sharp. Down here, looking at the armor, we're going to be looking at the Guardian Ebony Helmet Beta, Blango Mail Beta, Guardian Ebony Braces Beta, Blango Coil Beta, Blango Greaves Beta, and the Chain Charm 2 for that burst. And then taking a look at our decorations, we're just going to be filling in all of the 2 slots our resentment here. Easy to fit in all 5. And then with our final 1 slots, we're just going to be doing brace for the flinch free. Once again, not getting knocked down, and we can stay doing damage through that little bit of chip damage and actually proc our resentment, which is really nice. I did just want to show off a couple weapons that you can use if you don't want to make an Artian weapons. I know I was using Artian weapons in all of my like endgame sets, so I just want to show off a couple like monster ones that you can make that are work really well. The main thing that it's like you need to have on here is offensive guard, so that's why we're just going to sort by there. And we get essentially 3 options here with the Balahara if you guys want water, the Chemitress if you want fire, or if you want blast, the Ajarkan. This is just overall, I think, the best one in my opinion, unless you're matching elements. But if you just want like one size fits all, you want to make one sword and shield and use it for everything, this is going to be your go-to, is the Ajarkan. But I did just want to show those off. Otherwise, the only other ones with offensive guard would be the Ray Dao, which only has 1 point. You don't really need the guard. And then also the Blango here with the ice also just has 1 offensive guard and 2 critical draw. You don't really need critical draw, so I would recommend sticking to the Ajarkan, Chemitress, or the Balahara. I did just want to show off the damage potential of the combos here. So I have all my drugs active and got offensive guard and resentment going right there. 1 full combo of light attacks with the mantle is about 1800, 1900 damage. My resentment did end up running out because I was a little slow on it. I was trying to make sure my counter reset, but yeah, 1800 damage in 15 hits is not too bad. Showing off now the lateral slash combo. 1, 2, 3, spin, boom. Still 1700 damage. So you can see it's just a hair less than the light attack combo, but it is less hits, so that does make sense. So there's still really good options, but as you can see, the lateral slashes is going to be your move once your mantle has run out. Hopefully you guys have fun giving these sets a go. I think it's a ton of fun using sword and shield, and these sets work very well for me. I really like doing the blast stuff too. The blast weapon is incredibly strong. I love all the knockdowns that it gets and the staggers. All of that stuff works out really well, especially on Arkveld, which is like the only thing you're fighting in this game anyways. Blast works really well, but it also with the elements, you just deal so much damage if they can take elements. So there's a lot of different options you can do for weapons and things like that. So I do recommend giving this a go. But thank you guys for watching this far. I really do appreciate it. If you guys are interested in any more Monster Hunter Wilds builds, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. But anyways, hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.